All right, hello and welcome everyone. This is week 5 of CAA Today. Correction, this is our 5th episode of CAA Today. This is week 4. Um, we did have a preseason episode. We'll get right into it. Start with our week 4 review. We started off with William Mary at James Madison. Back and forth game. Boa and myself traded scores all the way into overtime. I had a chance to win it in regular time. I missed a 55-yard field goal. Luckily, it wasn't 56 yards. We all know how that one goes. And then in overtime, Bobo won the toss, elected to defend, which is a better decision. I scored a touchdown on the first drive, luckily, and then I think it was the first play of the next drive. I called 1492, and Bobo called somewhere around the 730s, so it was like a 740-ish difference. And there was a fumble that I recovered, and so I won 28 to 21. Next, we had VMI at Delaware, and this was by far the biggest upset of the season so far, as VMI was able to pull away from Delaware, forcing 2 field goals out of Delaware, which is a hard task to do, and won the turnover battle, which led to the final score of 28 to 21. Next up, we had Duquesne at Youngstown. Youngstown won big. Duquesne pulled back a little bit late, but Snoop was too much to handle. Penguins won 48 to 31. Our slowest game of the week, but there wasn't really much to say out of this. YSU continued to pass heavily, and Duquesne just couldn't stop them. Next up, we've got Richmond at Delaware State, and this game was as close can be. We saw it come all the way down to the end, and a missed 2-point conversion was the demise of the Spiders. Richmond dominated in total yards, 521 to 383, but they couldn't convert when they needed to most, and DSU won by 1 point, 46 to 45. Matt, I don't know if you want to talk about that big 2-point conversion. That was a big game there for you.
Yeah, that game was it was so back and forth. It was I think both of us had a 10-point lead at some point, but in the end, the defense played well when they needed to and got that win.
Next up, we had Villanova at Robert Morris, and Edge soundly put Lilly tumbling down the CAA standings as he won 35 to 7. It was tied 7-7 at the end of the first quarter, but from there on out, it was all Edge. Forced 2 turnovers and kept a clean slate on his side of the ball. Edge, how about that big game to get you in that win column?
Yeah, that was a good one. And I believe, I don't know the exact scores I had all of D2, but I believe that's my biggest win as a coach here, definitely at Villanova. So that's nice. And, one thing I found out last season is that when I force turnovers, I win, and when I don't, I lose. And, so getting those 2 turnovers was a good sign, and, it really set the game for me.
Big win for the Wildcats, putting them into the win column and 1-1 in CAA play. And finally, our game of the week, the Ashes series game that is so famed, England versus Australia. We had our Australian coach at Towson versus the London-based Ryland at Morgan State. Morgan State pulled off the upset that no one thought would happen. They win 38 to 28. They dominated the time of possession. They did give up more turnovers, but at the end of the day, scoring more points is what matters, and yet Morgan State was able to do that. They also held Towson under 300 yards, which I'm pretty sure is one of the first times that this has happened this season. I think it happened once before when they lost to Lafayette, I believe. And yeah, so good win for Ryland. Get him back into the win column and hopefully some momentum because he's got a tough game next week against none other than Danny. Moving right along, those were the 6 conference games. We have our stat of the week, and this is the first time in conference play, as I flip back to the conference review, that we had 2 games and with the same score. We saw James Madison beat William and Mary by 28 to 21. We also saw VMI beat Delaware 28 to 21. And so that's just something that we noticed. What we got wrong, I know I missed VMI winning, Morgan State winning, Villanova winning, and Delaware State winning.
Yeah, I missed VMI, Morgan State, and Delaware State as well.
And then we go to
remember
the player.
exactly. Yep. I don't remember exactly who I picked, but I think I was right around. I think I was 3-3 this week, or 3-2 since I didn't pick on my own game.
Move right along to player of the week. Offensive player of the week, quarterback from Delaware State. Says he has 385 pass yards and 4 touchdowns. I'm not sure about the accuracy on that. That might have changed. It might be less, actually. But they won their game against Richmond. And then on defense, we had Emmett Harlan, the junior strong safety out of Villanova. He had 13 tackles, 2 sacks, 6 deflections, and 1 pick. So great showing there. Helped him beat Robert Morris 35-7. Don't know why it says 28-21 there. But move right along. Power ranking time. Got a new number 1 this week in Youngstown State, taking all 3 of the first place votes. Coming in at second, Delaware State, and Delaware dropping to third. James Madison comes in at fourth. That's their highest ranking since about week 1 of last season. VMI at 25 votes gets fifth. Towson with 17 at sixth. Richmond, William & Mary, and Villanova go 7-9. Robert Morris, Duquesne, Morgan State bringing up the rear at 10, 11, and 12. Matt, I don't know if you want to talk. You had a first place vote last week. What are your thoughts about losing that first place vote, and also Youngstown State overtaking that first place spot?
Well, I think my loss against Youngstown State definitely cemented Snoop as the best coach in the conference. So I think that it's definitely, I definitely warranted losing that first place vote. He's phenomenal, especially on defense. He's probably my favorite to win the conference at this point. Also, spots 6 through 10 are all 1 point behind the one before them, except for Towson. They're 8 behind the number 5 spot, which is interesting.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's really hard to rank those teams. They're all 1-1 or 0-2 in conference, and it's really interesting because like Robert Morris, they have a new coach. Towson had like really high expectations. They were up there at like third week 2, and now they're sitting at 6. Villanova coming back from 11th to 9th. How does that feel, Edge?
It's good to be moving back up. Still a little lower than I'd like to be, but looking at the power rank, kind of exactly where you expect everyone to be. You got Snoop and Matt up there, Snoop, Matt, and Delaware up there at the top, and then you just kind of have everyone else fighting it out in the rest of those places.
Yeah, we'll see how things come to light. They should sort of even out as we move throughout conference play. Also, this out of conference week will be big. See where coaches end up. Morgan State, even with a big win against Towson, still remains last place, and Duquesne right above them at 5 points at 11th after their big loss against Youngstown State, the number 1 team. And so we'll see how things shake out there as well. Moving on, we've got the most controversial segment, contender and pretender. I'm showing some love to that fellow Colts fan of mine, Coach Plack at Eastern Washington. At 4-0, they've got a very good record, and they're set up very well in their Big Sky pod because they avoid all of the tough schools. And then at pretender, I have Towson. I could have expected them to come back against a struggling Morgan State, but instead they lost that game, and their dreams of a CAA North title are slowly slipping away.
I can hop in here for pretender and pretender. I have contender. I actually think Chase, even though he's 2-2, he's been pretty consistent so far. That whole MVC looks really good. Anyone who's 2-2, I think, really has a good shot to get an at-large bid. And then for a pretender, I'm actually going to go out of the Big Sky. Dixie State at 3-1. It's a good 3-1 right now, but that conference is going to cannibalize itself, I have a feeling. So I don't see Dixie State lasting.
All right. So my contender, I'm going to go with Eastern Washington as well. He's consistently just winning games, and he's a fellow air raid team, so I will always favor them when I'm doing this kind of thing. And then Pretender, I'm going to go with Alpine Christian 3-1. That 3-1 record is a little bit misleading, mainly because one of them was one of those wins was last night in like a first score wins tiebreaker after the deadline scenario that I won that game, so that record is probably not reflective of their true record to coach. It's probably they might have been 2-2, but I don't think they're as good as their record says right now.
All right, yeah, for a contender for me, I'm going to go with Delaware State. Matt kind of finally proved himself to me this week. They obviously have a really good offense, but Zan's no pushover, even though he's 1-3. That's a really great win that kind of puts Delaware State towards the top of the CAA for me right now. And for a pretender, I'm going to go with Northern Iowa. It's just kind of a team that you expect to see near the top, and they're not there right now.
Yeah, kind of going along with that. I think the thing with Northern Iowa is they're trying to find their footing in Missouri Valley that is so much better than last season. I mean, you look at how new coaches have done. Obviously, Western Illinois, big name up there. Indiana State's been doing their thing. North Dakota State finally coming to reach their true potential. They're going to be ranked top 5 this week, hopefully. That's where I have them. And so we'll see how things shake out in the MVC, whether or not Northern Iowa will come back and control their conference again like they have in seasons past. Moving on, we've got the Week 5 preview. This is a big one. We've got the CFC CAA Challenge Week, the C conferences. This is why we have Ryan here today. Obviously, he's got that CFC bias, and so we're excited to see what he has to say. But we'll start it off with Delaware at NCCU. North Carolina Central has been doing very good this season. I think they're 2-2 or 1-3, so they have not been doing good.
1-3. 1-3.
Yeah, 1-3. And VMI. I meant Delaware. Delaware lost to VMI last week, but I expect them to rebound and control the clock in a low-scoring game. I'm going 21-10. Give me the Fighting Blue Hens.
Yeah, I agree completely. They go with a 24-10.
Yeah. I think Delaware finds a way to win, almost certainly. I'm going to say 28-21.
I'll give a little backstory with the NC Central. I know Delaware's been pretty solid this season. Some close losses, tough fought, but has played well all season long. NC Central had a couple early tough losses, but has played actually considerably well against all opponents. A 1-point loss to start conference play against Elon, and then a 2-touchdown win against the Citadel. I don't think NC Central takes this game. I think Delaware should have this one on lock, but don't be surprised if it's just like Delaware punches one in, goes up by 14. NC Central punches one in. It's now a 7-point game. So by the end of the game, it probably finishes 31-24. And NC Central had a fighter's chance, but it really was Delaware's game the whole time.
Next up, we've got Delaware State versus North Carolina A&T. This is Canner's school, if I'm not mistaken, and Matt proved himself last week in a tough battle against Zand and won with a defensive 2-point conversion stand. Matt's defense doing good is something that is not very common, and so I think they ride that. I think they ride that momentum on that 2-point conversion stand. Give me Matt against Cannon here. Little meme score here, 38-33, and so go Hornets.
Yeah, I obviously just called Delaware State a contender, so I can't really do that and then go out and predict them to lose this week. So I'm going to go with a Delaware State win, 49-41.
Last time I played Canner, he beat me in that 95-62 meme game. So I am going to make sure that doesn't happen again. But it's going to be high scoring. I think I can win maybe something like 56-49, somewhere in that range.
So NC Central and Canner kind of off to a slow start. It's not actually that surprising. That school has had troubles winning out of conference games, but in conference it's 2-0, so it's looking up so far. I think Delaware State has played just a tiny bit better, even though Canner did get a solid win over South Carolina State, who beat Wofford. So I think the game's close the whole way, but I think Delaware State's just playing at a different level right now and probably takes this one somewhere in the ballpark of like 45-38. maybe a little more, maybe 50, 51, 45, 44.
Yeah, I realize my points are kind of on the low end here for a Delaware State team, but I'm sticking with it, you know. I gotta have one team at least scoring 33, so maybe it'll be like 49 to 33 or something like that. Anyways, moving on, we've got Duquesne versus Presbyterian. Presbyterian pulled off a kind of upset win against Gardner Webb last week, even though Gardner Webb has struggled as well. But give me that train. I expect to see that train keep rolling against the sputtering Dukes of Duquesne. So give me Presby 42 to 31. I don't see Duquesne recovering against that big loss to Youngstown State.
Yeah, Duquesne's just really been struggling. You know, they struggled most of last season. It continued into this season, and I'm going to take Presbyterian 38 to 21 this week.
I don't really. I feel like this is a coin flip, to be honest. Both teams are due, in my opinion, to rebound in some way. So I think it'll be really close, and probably low scoring in the 25 to 28 point range. So I'm not gonna pick a winner, but it's gonna be very close.
So coming into the season, the team that I was kind of most skeptic about, maybe not with any expectations on the line, but purely just are they going to get wins, was Presbyterian. They struggled last season as one of the bottom three coaches in the CFC. Played both North Carolina A&T and the Citadel, who were down there with them, and they couldn't even get close. They didn't even come close to winning those games. So I came into the season not expecting much at a Presbyterian, and they have definitely surprised. 2-0 in conference play is a really good start, and both out of conference games were close losses. I'm hopping on board. I know my other co-commissioner was on board all preseason for Presbyterian. I was skeptic, but I'm ready to go. I'm Presbyterian. I think is going to take this one. I think they might take it a little big, maybe like a 35-14, 35-17 win.
Colin Blow, it's something Pella would have liked if he was still here. Anyways, moving on, we've got James Madison taking on the Citadel. Coming off a big OT win, I'm going to play a Citadel team that is struggling and has the third worst ELO in the league. I'm going to back myself here to get that 3-2 record with a big win, 35 to 14.
Yeah, JMU is just heating up right now. You know, they're at 2-2, and I think they're just going to be too good for the Citadel. I think James Madison's going to win 38 to 20.
I think JMU is gonna absolutely just blow the doors off of the Citadel, like 45 to 15 or something. It's not gonna be very close.
So with the Citadel, as mentioned, them and Presbyterian, North Carolina A&T were the three of the bottom in the CFC last year. North Carolina A&T with a new coach. Citadel and Presbyterian retained. And in coming into this season, Citadel last year was like 1-7. It was terrible, and it turned around to 4-8. So I kind of had high hopes. Ended off the season, I think, on a 2-game winning streak. I really thought Citadel would come in big. Won an out of conference game, and then both conference games so far have been kind of duds. I expect another good fight against James Madison, but I don't think it's going to be a win. I think it's going to be a 34, probably pretty similar to the game they just played, 34-23, 34-24 to James Madison.
I'll take that. I want to give that was a great poem there, Matt. I was not expecting coming off guard there. Anyways, we've got the one non-CAA CFC game. It's Morgan State taking on Montana State, and I've got to back Morgan State here. They need this win to have a shot to tie the series in Week 8. So give me the Bears by 3, 27 to 24. I know it's not likely, but I'm trying to speak it into existence here. The Bears need to win this one, and I say they will by 3.
Yeah, Morgan State didn't look too good in the first half of the series against Montana State. And unfortunately for Ryland, I just don't think this one's going to be anywhere particularly close. I'm going to go with 41 to 16, Montana State.
Yeah, I think this game will be closer than last time, but Ryland I don't think he can beat Danny. Ryan, he's good, but Danny is he's just that good. I'm gonna say instead of it being like 42 to 16, like the last couple, I'm just gonna say 35 to 21. Just make it a teeny bit closer.
Yeah, I think Montana State kind of rolls here again. I think I was last on here. I also predicted a roll after the first game in the series, so I'm gonna go probably pretty similar to that. like 42-17, somewhere around that range.
Fair enough. Moving back into CAA versus CFC play, we've got Robert Morris at South Carolina State. Lily got put back in her place as the new coach by Edge last week after she lost 7-35. South Carolina State is 2-2. Had a win over Wofford in week 3. Wofford, one of the better teams in the CFC. I'm taking South Carolina State by 20. Give me them 27-7.
Lily showed that she has a lot to learn yet, as far as being down in games. But I'm going to back her to bounce back with a 20-17 win.
I'm not too sure about this one, to be completely honest. Lily is showing flashes that she can just completely just decimate a team like she did in that one sequence of plays against VMI. But then again, she also lost by 28 to Villanova last week, so I think Cap beats her close.
So South Carolina State has kind of had a revolving door of coaches, and then finally we got Cap to come in and kind of stabilize. First week comes in, beats Wofford. That's a great win in conference. That's going to be needed to win the South Division. Follows it up though and loses to Canner in a game where it kind of looked like South Carolina State was a better team. So that one's got away from them. If Cap can control the clock like he does, I have a feeling he will probably win this game. Probably 21-14. It's probably going to be pretty close. The defense has actually been pretty strong for South Carolina State in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think one of the things is Cap likes to play to like the level of his opponents. He doesn't play like we know Cap to play, in his good games. I think he kind of uses up. So we'll see how that game goes. Next up, we've got Towson at Charleston Southern. This is a big one for the Tigers. The Tigers are struggling this season as they hear cries of overhyped and lost cause coming from the outside. They need to pull off a huge upset here against the Buccaneers. I don't see it happening. The Tigers are going to fall short on a comeback, maybe a missed fourth down conversion at the end. So give me the Buccaneers by 31-28. I'm not even sure if the Buccaneers is Charleston Southern's mascot, but
It is.
they have it is okay. I saw the swords and I was like, it's got to be Buccaneers, right? So give me the Buccaneers 31-28.
I think Charleston Southern is much worse than their record says. I think Mr. D can pull this one out, but it'll be close. I'm going to go 35-34.
Yeah, I think Mr. D, he just hasn't been able to quite get things going the way he wanted to this season. Normally I'd take the undefeated team going into this game, but this just has the makings for a signature upset, I think. So I'm going to take Towson 23-21.
So looking back at my co-commissioner's history at CSU, you would notice a kind of a pattern emerging, and that was an inability to win out of conference games. Now, if you look at their record this season, they're 4-0. This is really the first time they've actually won out of conference games, which is making it hard for me to predict them. I would have said Towson probably easily, but looking really strong. The defense for CSU has been lights out. The offense has been fine, but if that defense keeps holding, I really don't see a loss coming for a while. I think CSU takes this one 31, maybe 7, 31-10.
And finally, we've got our game of the week. Never mind, I skipped 4 of them. We've still got more games. Next up, we've got Villanova at Gardner-Webb. Nova got into the win column last week, and I expect to see it continue against Gardner-Webb. Give me the Wildcats in a big one, 21-3.
As nice as that would be to have such a good defensive performance again, I'm really not taking Gardner-Webb lightly. I think they're also 1-3, but I am going to back myself for a 28-17 win and return to my scoring exactly 1 touchdown a quarter.
If I'm remembering correctly, Kosui's offense is extremely good. And I don't know much about his defense, but he he's won a couple games pretty easily, so this is gonna be close, but I think he wins. I'm gonna say 31-28.
So one thing Gardner Webb has been pretty good at in CFC is being pretty consistent as right in the middle of the road, even with new coaches. This season, that much hasn't changed. Started off strong, got a win, followed it up with a big loss to Dartmouth, who is actually looking like a potential playoff team. So that loss isn't that bad, and it was close. And then you back that the next week, losing by 3 points to Davidson. I think that's something that not many people are taking a good look at. Now, the loss to Presbyterian, you might think, all right, they lost close, but they just don't have that kind of it factor to close out games. And while I do agree, I think Presby is on a much better momentum right now. Watch out for them in the South as my one little thing to give for the CFC. So for Gardner Webb, they could probably take this one, but it will be close. Defense has been leaky at times, but also has had some big stands. So I think something in the ballpark 35-31 Gardner Webb. But if that 35-31 is Villanova, I will not be surprised.
Keep chugging through these. We got VMI at Davidson. VMI just knocked off a great team in the Hens, but faced an even tougher task against the undefeated and future top 10 Davidson squad. I don't see the Keydets pulling this one off. I'm going 35-21 Davidson.
Yeah, I don't see back-to-back big upsets for VMI here. I'm going to go with a 42-28 win for Davidson.
I think VMI is starting to get that 11-3. I think it was conference championship footing back. I think they win here. They're not going to score that much. I'm going to say 31-24, but I think they're starting to get their mojo back.
So if you look back at Davidson's history, you'll notice a good pattern similar to CSU's, where it is good starts and then kind of fizzles out. And that fizzle, it starts right around week 5, week 6. So after 2 good wins in conference, again a close one in division, and then a big win over Wofford that I think was needed for Davidson to kind of keep their name in the at-large bid hunt. I'm actually going to take VMI, but it's going to be close, and Davidson's going to probably throw it away. Somewhere, I think it actually goes pretty decently high scoring, probably 38-35. Davidson doesn't convert when needed to, and VMI pulls a big upset.
That's a big call coming from the co-commissioner of the CFC, calling their undefeated team to lose. That is huge. Anyways, we'll keep moving on. We've got William and Mary versus Furman. Both of these teams have lost heartbreakers, an overtime loss for the Tribe, a 1-point loss to Elon for Furman. Furman is 0-4, and I expect them to go 0-5. Give me a palindrome score in this one, 42-24.
Yeah, I'm going to back the CAA and my Dodger teammate Bobo to win this one. I'll say 38-31.
I guess I'll jump into this one. Obviously, Furman this year getting a new coach after a legendary run to the playoffs and a conference championship last year. It's been a slow start for head coach Brian, but he does now have a new offensive coordinator, so that will be interesting to watch this week. He's been getting better, and I think that's the big key. It's getting better. It's a slow start, but I think it will actually ramp up, and I think this could be the start of it. I just barely beat him out last week. It was a quite close game. That's probably the hardest game I've had all season, and I've had 2 losses. So I think I'm going to take Furman in this one. The new offensive coordinator will be interesting. I don't know if it's going to be high scoring or low scoring. So I'm going to go 28-21 and play it passive for Furman.
I think this game will depend on how well Furman adjusts to Bobo's pace of play. Bobo tends to slow the game down a lot, and if you can't adjust to that, then you're kind of screwed. If he does, he has a shot to win, but I think Bobo is just good enough to squeak it out 28-25 or something.
To the penultimate game, we've got Youngstown State versus Elon. This match was supposed to have so much hype into the season. You had a top 10 coach in Bernie facing off against the NIT champ in Elon. Instead, we get a struggling Elon, 2-2 on the season, against Snoop, who is seen as the best coach in the CAA after coming in for the retired Bernie. So give me the Penguins 38-24.
Yeah, I think Snoop's going to keep rolling here. I think he'll win pretty big. I'll say 41-28.
I also think Snoop is going to win. I'm going to say 42-21.
So this was an interesting game. This one originally was actually supposed to be Elon versus Delaware State, but me and Bernie worked it out, and we moved that game to actually into Week 8 for Elon versus Delaware State to put what coming into the season looked like the two best contenders in both of the conferences. Hasn't quite played out that way. Obviously, Bernie's gone. Snoop's come in, has played really well. I've had a rough go at it in out of conference, but I do have 2 1-point victories, which I think it might look kind of shaky, but I think coming out and pulling a win on those games was huge for my own confidence. I don't think I take this one though. I would give this one to Snoop probably. I'm not going to predict a score though.
And then finally, we've got our game of the week. My perceived best game, that like the most interesting game. It's Richmond at Wofford, and Zan has left the server. And will that be good or bad? No one really knows. However, I'm going to back Wofford here. Junie has a great offensive mind, and Captain Solo has emerged as a defensive presence on the other side of the ball, and they pack a great 1-2 punch. Give me 31-28 Wofford. It's going to be another close loss for Zan, and I hope he can bounce back next week in conference play, except for when he plays me. I hope he loses then. But right now, I'm taking Wofford in this one as things play out.
Yeah, Zan has been struggling. I really like to think he's going to bounce back, but so far he hasn't really shown much to prove to me that he will. So I'm going to take Wofford in a close defensive game. I'll do 21-17.
I'm thinking I'm going to keep up with this. I think Wofford is going to win close, 24-17. Zand, I thought last week would be his bounce back game against me, but that didn't happen. It remains to be seen what that 2-point conversion at the end of the game will do to his confidence, but I think he keeps close but loses.
Wofford obviously comes in this year now with the 2-coach setup, got the coordinators rolling. The defense, I think, is the staple of this team. It seems to be pretty prevalent. Obviously, last week Davidson kind of ran a number on it, but I expect it to kind of be back to normal this week. So I don't think Wofford or Richmond will score too much on Wofford. Where the problem lies is Hooney on offense. It is either 45 points, all gung ho, everything's connecting, or they're punting the ball on 3rd down and recovering it 5 yards downfield. So it's basically playing a game of roulette, which what offense comes on the field. I'm going to take Wofford 42-21. If it's a 24-21 victory for Richmond, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest.
Yeah, it's also interesting to see what version of Zan we'll see. Will we see like the one that is the offensive mastermind, put together long drives, or if it's going to be the one that we saw that lost their first game, I think it was, of the season. That was just a rough game for them. Anyways, we'll keep it moving right along into the listener topics. And coming right in, we've got Western Illinois with the first question. Who should be number 1 if Princeton and Mississippi Valley State were to lose? For me, it's either Kennesaw or North Dakota State. It's got to be one of those two.
Yeah, it's definitely Kennesaw State for me.
I think I'm going to go with Kennesaw too.
Yeah, I think it's Kennesaw. It's not close. That program has showed strength throughout the years, so I don't think anyone else would deserve it if those two were to lose.
And then the next question is going to be, again, from Western Illinois. It is, what is the worst 3-1 and 4-0 teams and the best 0-4 and 1-3 teams? So I'll just go through mine. For worst 4-0, I have Jackson State. Worst 3-1 is Houston Baptist, no question. no hate to F man, but he's just not good. I mean, he gave up 106 points, like unironically. For best 1 and 3, I've got 3 options here that I all think are very good. Idaho, Bryant with Hunky, very good, and then Jacksonville State, obviously, has always been a good coach. Pulled off a big upset against Pella last season. And then for best 0-4, I've got Holy Cross or Prairie Valley.
I'm going to say that I agree with most of that list, except for one of the 3-1s. I'll throw Abba and Christian in. I just don't think they're as good as 3-1. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything there. Just to single a couple out. Yeah, I think Jackson State and HBU for worst 4-0 and 3-1, and then I'll go with Idaho for best 1 and 3, and Holy Cross for best 0-4.
I'm gonna agree with the worst 4-0 and worst 3-1. But my reasonings, I think, are a little bit different. I think everyone's kind of underestimating Jackson State. Watch out for them; they've played really well. I just don't think that they have the caliber of wins, so that's probably why you throw them down there. They've played really no one special yet, but if they do, don't be surprised if they win. I think Jackson State is legit. HBU, I agree. F-Man 3-1 is surprising and great for him. I wish him to keep winning, but I don't see that keeping up. For best 1 and 3, it's probably Idaho, but I'll throw in kind of an underrated name from my own conference. Say, watch out for NC Central. Played me really close and has played a lot of people really close. Bad starts to games have killed their chances of winning, but I saw him go back and forth against Wazip and Albany. Had he not given up 3 touchdowns to start the game, within 2 minutes, that game would have been wire to wire all the way down. So for that one, Idaho or NC Central. And then 0-4, I'm actually new Alabama A&M. It's actually played pretty well. New coach in the A-Sun and is not awful. I think some more practice underneath the belt, and Alabama A&M could actually be a pretty solid team as the season rolls around.
Fair enough. Next question here. What conference sends the most teams to the playoffs and which only send their conference championship winner? For most, I'm going Big Sky or Missouri Valley. Both of them have great players who all deserve an at-large bid if there were to be like an upset winner in the conference. And least, I'm going to go with MAC or Colonial. As much as I hate to say it, we have kind of self-imploded our chances for an at-large bid. Haven't had a great start to the season. Although if the CAA goes like 12-0 this week, it wouldn't be terrible. So we'll see how things work out.
I think I agree with you on the most bids, but I'd throw the ASUN in there too. And then least bids, if things were to hold constant from here, I think CAA could get up to 2 or 3 bids, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we get 1 bid. So I think we could definitely be the conference the least, but I think the MAC is definitely better.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Big Sky for the most teams. Also, I guess the MVC is a pretty good shout too. They're looking pretty good. Least, I'm gonna go with the MAC. I know they're improving. We're down there too. I'm also gonna throw the Ivy in there just because they're not because they're bad, but because they have so few teams and they look so competitive this year. I could really see them kind of cannibalizing in conference play.
It's actually going to be a little interesting because I think easily the teams that get sent the most are the Ivy and the MVC. I think this week 5 is going to be huge for all conferences. If both the Ivy and MVC come out and play really well, I think it's almost a lock that they maybe both send 3, maybe more. And then for the least amount, I think the MAC's in there to only get 1, but you could see 2. But I think this CAA CFC challenge will determine which conference will technically be last, quote unquote, and will only send their conference champion in.
Keep chugging along through these questions. This is the last one we've got. A nice little short one here. Since WWE Royal Rumble is in a week, who would win in FFCS Royal Rumble? Easy answer for me is Brady. Dude is an animal. Played D2 football. If we include former coaches as well, throw ampersand in there. It looks like he lifts, as well as Shake. I know I've talked to Shake about lifting, things like that. Shake is also super lanky. Looks like he can avoid punches, slither around, throw some people out. So give me those 3 are my top 3. Brady, if it's only current coaches, former coaches, those are my top three.
All right, so this is the answer I've been kind of teasing all day, but I thought of this one in more of like a booking sense because I'm a nerd like that. And usually the winner of the Royal Rumble is either an existing huge talent or someone that they're ready to really push. So if I'm going with the big talent, I'm gonna go with Brady because he's been around the top. He's been around the top for a while, and he's ready to go for the big win the national championship. And for the up and comer, I'm going to go with Sarah, someone who we know has a lot of potential and is really popular, in the league. Taking what would be like be a Royal Rumble win and going to the grandest stage of them all, which is the FCS playoffs, of course.
I just noticed this question. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see this at the beginning. You're all thinking of this wrong. When it comes to WWE style match, the weirdest person's got to win. So Moofish is taking this like solidly, without any struggle at all.
I mean, you make an interesting point, but come on, like
I'm telling
you
you,
got
man,
like
Moofish. You gotta watch out for him.
you got a
One
college
moment he's
football
on your
player
back,
here.
next thing he's licking your ear or something, and then you're out the ring. You're like, I'm not dealing with this.
You make a good point. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Moofish like I don't know spin people around the ring and throw them out. Start slow dancing with them. Just really confusing. Moofish would be as an opponent in that Royal Rumble. That would be interesting. Anyways, that'll wrap it up. I want to thank Ryan for coming on. Hope you had a good time listening to this. If you are listening on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe to FCS Fake College Media. You know how it goes. If you're watching right now, thanks for listening as well. Thank you all for coming in and have a great day. Peace out.